Prime Minister has spoken out once again on the Kashmir Pahalgam terror attack, and he has reiterated the fact that the blood of every Indian is boiling, vowing the harshest punishment to the perpetrators and their backers. This on a day when the Indian Navy has released images of Arabian Sea warships and has also conducted multiple anti-ship missile firings to indicate its war readiness. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. Our special focus, our relentless coverage on the aftermath of the Kashmir terror attack continues. And the Prime Minister has once again reinforced his message not just to India but to the rest of the world. Speaking on Mann Ki Baat, the Prime Minister has said that the blood of every Indian is boiling. He has vowed the harshest punishment to the perpetrators. This as there have been a series of explosions to bring down the homes of terrorists across the Kashmir Valley. And the Indian Navy has released the images you see on your screen, indicating its combat readiness, its war readiness, firing multiple anti-ship missile firings and releasing those images to the public and obviously indicating a strong message to Pakistan. In all of this, Pakistan's comments, Pakistan's behavior has got more and more strident and unhinged. Today, we've had a shocking nuclear threat from one of Pakistan's ministers. There's a lot to talk about. Let me introduce our guests on the program today. Let's bring them up. Tavleen Singh, author and columnist, just out with a column on the issue saying India and Pakistan's problem goes well beyond Kashmir in the Indian Express. Good to see you, Tavleen. Veteran diplomat, Ambassador Prabhu Dayal is with us. Ambassador Dayal has been talking about how India now must openly back Baluchistan and its movement is back with us. We're also joined by strategic affairs analyst Robindra Sachdev. Good to see you, Mr. Sachdev. And military veteran hero of Siachen, Gen Sanjay Kulkarni is with us. General Kulkarni, sir, always a pleasure. Let me get started with what the Prime Minister said on Mann Ki Baat.
देश के दुश्मनों को, जम्मू कश्मीर के दुश्मनों को ये रास नहीं आया। आतंकी और आतंक के आका चाहते हैं कश्मीर फिर से तबाह हो जाए और इसलिए इतनी बड़ी साजिश को अंजाम दिया। आतंकवाद के खिलाफ इस युद्ध में देश की एकता, 140 करोड़ भारतीयों की एकजुटता हमारी सबसे बड़ी ताकत है। पूरा विश्व आतंकवाद के खिलाफ हमारी लड़ाई में 140 करोड़ भारतीयों के साथ खड़ा है। मैं पीड़ित परिवारों को फिर भरोसा देता हूं, उन्हें न्याय मिलेगा, न्याय मिलकर रहेगा। इस हमले के दोषियों और साजिश रचने वालों को कठोरतम जवाब दिया जाएगा।
That is the Prime Minister's message, and the Indian Navy, as you can see on your screen, has conducted anti-ship missile firings. It has indicated and anytime, anywhere, not just indicated, that's its exact statement on social media, anytime, anywhere, giving a strong message on combat readiness. There's a lot to talk about. I will start with you, General Kulkarni. There's a sense very clearly now that we're entering a phase of readiness for military or kinetic action. We don't know, we don't want to speculate, but clearly all options, diplomatic and military, are very firmly on the table, and the Prime Minister has repeated that message in his address on Mann Ki Baat today. How do you see where we stand right now?
Thank you, Barkha. There's no denying the fact what the Prime Minister is saying. Action is required. It's now or never, because they've had enough of it. And Pakistan has repeatedly violated all agreements. Pakistan can't be trusted. They were given adequate indications earlier also. What happened after Uri we know. What happened after Pulwama we know. All joint investigations. Nothing comes out of it. So Pakistan will perpetually be in a denial mode. And Pakistan is ingrained with inflicting India with 1,000 cuts. Having said that, and the way it has been done, and preceding virtually what their chief of the army staff, Asif Munir, better to call him Hafiz Munir, The way he's gone about talking about two-nation theory, everybody knows about it. The kind of the division trying to bring between the Hindus and the Muslims, which is totally incorrect because the Muslims of India are totally different, united, and that what happens in Pakistan they would not get influenced by. And that I'm so happy for the first time that the Muslims in Kashmir Valley have also come out openly against what has happened, because all said and done, what the Pakistanis have done with the intention to deny the Kashmiris of their earnings. Tourism, which was flourishing, hotel booking flourishing, everybody was looking forward to, and all of it was back to normalcy. Aberrations, yes. OGWs, yes. Sleeper cells, yes. Notwithstanding all the aberrations, things were still looking up, and this is what couldn't be digested by the Pakistan establishment, which has all along as working as the only army in the world which has a nation to itself. And therefore, we find that this hate India, and how can India flourish? And in the same breath, I'll say the Chinese do not want India to progress economically. They have found in Pakistan a state which does not, in any case, pull along with India. Then why not use Pakistan at all times to pull down India economically? And therefore, it suits China, it suits Pakistan, because Pakistan doesn't hate India, and China does not want India to progress economically. So it's actually win-win factor for both our adversaries or both our enemies are concerned. In that context, if you were not to teach Pakistan a lesson, kinetic, non-kinetic, whether it's the Indus Water Treaty, cyber, space, other actions that are necessarily required to be taken, but an action, it must prevent Pakistan from repeating what it is doing. If it is to repeat even after what we've shown them in Balakot, what we've shown them in surgical strike, if all of it was to happen again, maybe after a few years, then it's not worth it. We have to stop it. And that stoppage is very, very essential.
General Kulkarni, that last bit is what I'm going to take to Ambassador Dayal. The last bit is the key bit, right? The surgical strike after Uri, the Balakot airstrike after the Pulwama terror attack, Ambassador Dayal, as General Kulkarni pointed out, was not a permanent deterrence, right? There were phases of windows of peace that it allowed India to open in the Kashmir Valley, and those are the windows that Pakistan has sought to shut firmly this time, or that's their attempt. If there is to be a response that is sustainable, that is permanent, that is long lasting, it obviously has to be either different or bigger than what we've seen before. What is the precipice, or what is the crossroad that we're standing at right now?
Well, Barkha, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. Let me state categorically that all options are on the table. And the government doesn't have to announce what sort of steps it is planning to take. It will take steps and either reveal them once they are taken or just before they are going to be taken, such as diplomatic steps. As far as the military steps are concerned, those options will not be made public. They will be first exercised and then the public will come to know. Now, at the moment, the government is conducting a very serious inquiry into what allowed this sort of an attack to happen. Now, there has been a very big security lapse without doubt. There is a huge deployment of the armed forces in Jammu and Kashmir. There is also the deployment of the BSF, the CRPF, the local Jammu and Kashmir police. So how come these assailants, these terrorists were able to cross over from Pakistan and come to India? That's a question which people in India are asking. So there has to be an inquiry as to how this sort of thing happened. Secondly, there is a rising fear that there are sleeper cells of the ISI which are operating in India. And the government is trying to find out where these sleeper cells are located and trying to eradicate them. Now, in this context, the decisions which were announced after the CCS meeting are very significant, particularly in the context of the Pakistan High Commission. The Pakistan High Commission has been downsized from 55 to 30. The military, naval, and air attaches, who are the defense attaches, have been declared persona non grata, and along with their support staff, they have been asked to leave. And we are withdrawing our similar officers from Islamabad. Now, let me tell you, all along when I was posted abroad, I used to brief the foreign officers of the countries where I was posted and tell them about the Pakistani terrorist attacks. And the one question which they would always ask me is, if Pakistan is a terrorist state, why do you have diplomatic relations with it? If they are terrorists, then break off those relations. And frankly, this is what we should do. Why do we allow Pakistan to have a high commission here in India at all? We don't have any sort of contacts. We don't have trade relations. We don't have people to people contacts, no cultural contacts, no sporting contact. Why do we have the Pakistan High Commission? Now, let me also categorically tell you that there are grave suspicions and fears within the Indian establishment that the Pakistani High Commission is a den of spies. It keeps the sleeper cells active, it promotes anti India activities, and at the same time, it funds a lot of people coming from Pakistan, perhaps as tourists, and makes them function as its spies and as its activists. Now, if we are asking all Pakistani nationals to leave, it doesn't mean that we consider all Pakistanis bad. No, 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 no. But how do we know which ones are the mischievous ones? So the first step is let them go out, send them all out, and take all necessary steps to put an end to these sleeper cells. Otherwise, these sort of incidents will happen again and again, which is what we don't want.
All right. So you are basically saying, as a start, just close the Pakistan High Commission. Why do you need it? What is this engagement all about? Let's bring in Tavleen Singh. Tavleen, your column in the Indian Express argues that the problem is well beyond Kashmir, and I totally agree. But the bind for the government is this. The Prime Minister has repeated his assertion that there will be the harshest punishment, that the blood of every Indian is boiling. But Asim Munir, a weakened, discredited general after the Baluchistan attacks in his own country, making that crazy communal speech, might actually be itching for a military response from India that allows him, a new lease of life in Pakistan. There is that factor, or is that not our concern? We just have to go for the jugular, but the jugular in this case is the Pakistan army. It can't be a one-off episodic response again.
Whether Asim Munir survives or not is not our business. That's for them to deal with. What really we should be worried about is the time and time and time again, Pakistan hits us and we do nothing. When was the hijack of the Indian Airlines plane? In 2000, right? At the end of it was a new year, 1999, I think. It's now 2025. We've been hit more than once, and our response is feeble. So, what is wrong with us that the ISI is better at intelligence gathering, at covert activity, at all of this stuff than our own intelligence agencies? After the 2000 hijacking, I remember asking Jaswant Singh why we hadn't killed those guys as soon as they crossed the border into Pakistan from Afghanistan. And he said, we don't have the assets. Now, why don't we have the assets 25 years later? Those are the questions we should be asking. I totally agree with, with I think the general who said, there's been a serious failure of intelligence. What is going on? How could these guys not just conduct a massacre at a well-known tourist spot and then disappear? How? Why? How have they been allowed to become so clever technologically that, they don't use cell phones anymore? You can't trace them. So, those are the questions that I want to ask. I'm really sick and tired of India. And, I know the Punjabi on the other side very well. They see us as feeble, as weak. And I really think that the time has come for us to, take back Azad Kashmir, to take back whatever we can of
Pakistan. POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir.
Whatever, who cares what it is? It's not the name that matters. Or at least let's start, helping Balochistan break away. We could do that once with Bangladesh. We could do it again, and we should do. We should actually be seriously considering what we can do.
Yeah. I think those are two pretty big statements by Tavleen Singh. Helped create or birth Bangladesh. Why not break Balochistan away and take back POK? It's time to start having these conversations. In the meantime, you made the point about the Punjabi on the other side, kind of believing कि इंडिया तो कुछ नहीं करेगा, करेगा तो जो करेगा हम मैनेज कर सकते हैं. Even by Pakistan standards, a shocking nuclear threat has been made by a Pakistan minister today. I thought about whether we should play it or not, but since we're in a phase, this is a country, let's face it, Pahalgam terror attack is an act of war, and we are a country at war. Whatever form or shape that war takes, I don't know. But the attack was an act of war, and we are a country at war. And in response, this is what a Pakistan minister had to say today.
उन्होंने कह दिया ना कि अगर हमारा पानी बंद करेंगे तो फिर जंग के लिए तैयार हो जाएं. ये जो गोरी, शहीन, गजनवी, ये चौकों में सजाने के लिए नहीं हमने रखे हुए, ये हमने हिंदुस्तान के लिए रखे हैं. बाबा, ये जो 130 एटॉमिक हमारे पास वेपन है, वो हमने सिर्फ मॉडल बनाने के लिए नहीं रखे हुए. और आपको पता ही नहीं कि हमने पाकिस्तान के किस किस हिस्से में रखे हुए हैं. ये दुनिया भी जानती है, आप भी जानते हैं. वरना आप तो इतने मक्कार बनिए हैं कि अभी तक पाकिस्तान के ऊपर कई दफा हमलावर हो चुके होते आप.
So before I come to Mr. Sachdev, Tavleen, do you want to respond to that? I mean, Pakistan seems to get more and more and more strident.
Did he say banya?
I couldn't get that word actually. I'm not sure. But
the reason why I'm interested in what he said was that this is the impression of the average Pakistani, that they are somehow, so strong, etc., and that all Hindus are banyas. I've heard this said to me because, as a Sikh, they sort of see me as being, a warrior race. But they see every Hindu, they're very primitive in their thinking. But we are very primitive in our responses. I mean, I cannot tell you, I don't want to keep stirring it up and saying my blood is boiling.
I'm being told the Banya word is confirmed. It has been used. I just asked my producers to double check that. Yeah.
Okay, it's typical. Now, they're not that skilled. They had to steal their nuclear technology. We don't even know whether they have weapons that they can deliver, right? I mean, of course, they can just chuck one across the Wagah border or whatever they want to. But, the point is that they see us as cowardly because our responses have been so weak. And I, as an Indian, frankly, am fed up with this, with constant, we get complacent, we make a noise, our blood boils for 5 seconds, and then we wait for 25 years before we have a valid response. Why don't we have assets that can kill a few important people in Pakistan? Why do we not have the same abilities, at least, as they have to cause trouble in India?
Yeah, let's actually look at that. The point you made about Balochistan, Prabhu Dayal, Ambassador Dayal has been making that point. It is time to break Balochistan away. It is time. The birth of Balochistan as a separate country is something that India now should be supporting actively, aggressively. That's one option on the table, and we look at that. Mr. Sachdev, the other big point to look at is the Indus Water Treaty, right? And we had the Water Minister C.R. Patil today say in Hindi कि treaty से ही युद्ध जैसे परिस्थिति हो गई है, हमें पहले ही इसको कर देना चाहिए था. But in real terms, the treaty is going to take time to implement, right? It is right now very symbolic messaging. How do you see the treaty as a response? The suspension of the treaty.
Thank you very much. I'll come to that in a moment. I have a specific view on the water treaty, but stepping back to what the Prime Minister said today,
yeah,
I think the most important thing he said was that we need to have unity within our nation. I mean, that is something huge. The intent of any of these extremists is like talking like a broken record, is to create chaos, bloodshed, hatred within your country, and that's what they're succeeding in. So that's one objective. So unity within our country, I think that should be the headline always.
Yeah.
Secondly, why have they done it? And here I hark back to what General Kulkarni was also mentioning, and Prime Minister said that our economic process and they're getting frustrated and all. I go one step beyond it. In the environment of today, with the Trump tariffs circulating all over the world, companies are looking to relocate from China. Many of those companies are considering India. It is in China's interest, it is in Pakistan's interest to create a situation in India wherein investors, large companies decide not to set up supply chains in India because they do not want to be investing their billions of dollars in a country where there is political risk, terrorism, etc., etc. So Pakistan, in some ways, is also could be very much, I would assume, I would not leave it out, being a pawn in China's game against India and against the US. China doesn't want the US tariffs, etc., whatever Trump is going to equalize to succeed. But forget the US, India. So it is an impact. Why? It's
Right.
an impact economic on India. Now, that's it. Now, what to do? Unity absolutely is the headline, I think. Coming to the waters, just today morning, I was kind of thinking exactly to this point that, how much can we practically do? Okay, rhetoric is one thing, emotions are one thing. Sure, we can point out some large goal, but we cannot stop, quote unquote, even stop, divert the waters. But you know what we can do? And I'm laying it out, 47 by 47. Let us work on a focused idea that by 2047, we should be in a position to blockade or divert 47% of the waters which go to Punjab. 50%, let's say. We cannot manage 100%. That's
By 2047, we're in 2025.
Fair enough. It will take 20 odd years, Barkha. I mean, making these tunnels and dams and storage devices, we cannot, this cannot happen overnight. Ask any engineer or anyone.
Yeah. I think, hold on, Mr. Sachdev. I think Tavleen wants to respond, and then I want to go back to General Kulkarni and Ambassador Dayal. Tavleen.
I totally agree. You see, do we have the infrastructure to block the water? No, we don't. And secondly, if we start depriving poor farmers in Pakistan of water for their crops, we will lose the moral high ground, which at the moment we have. So I really think that this is just a symbolic gesture, and we shouldn't rely on it. What we need is hard, assets that can actually go into POK and go into Balochistan and really make it impossible for Pakistan to control those areas.
Thank you. If I may, please. Awesome. Yes, it cannot happen overnight. It has to be, but let's take a long strategic vision, like the moon vision or something. Let's work towards it and see if we can 10-20% reduce the water flow. That itself will be sufficient or very harsh for Pakistan. Now, next, talking in terms of actions, we've seen that whatever, retaliations we've done have been typically against the terror targets in Pakistan, the training camps, etc. Why are the attacks, counter, whatever strikes, not against the Pakistan Army ISI? They're the ones who are training these terror camps. I think all of our panel, somebody mentioned this earlier. They're the ones who are seeding, they're the ones who are nurturing, unless they are hit, unless it pains them. But yes, the challenge would be for our generals like General Kulkarni and our leadership to figure out a way to deliver at some strategic targets of the ISI or the army in such a way. And then, of course, there's the whole thing, how will it spiral? How will they retaliate? And how will they react?
I was just going to say that what we're talking about is a limited medium-term war, and is the country ready for that? That is a question we must raise, and I'll take that to our panel. But Robindra, you made the point about unity in the country, and I just want to emphasize that while the victims have definitely been targeted for their religion, they've been asked to read the Kalma, not been able to read it, shot. We also have to emphasize that we have seen an unprecedented moment within the Kashmir Valley, which is massive street protests against what has happened. We have also seen a poniwala, Adil Hussain, being sprayed with bullets as he tried to save the tourists. We have seen a shawlwala, if we can play those images, the shawlwala Sajad Bhatt. We've spoken to all of these men running down the mountains with an injured tourist on his back, and he was responding to a WhatsApp cry for help. And we have seen people now breaking down in tears on the streets as they say, please punish. I'm quoting a Kashmiri man and I'm going to play out that clip. Please punish these animals. Take a look at this street protest where one man breaks down in tears and another man uses the phrase, punish these animals. Take a look.
मेरी बहनों का यहाँ पे कत्लेआम किया किन दरिंदों ने किया हमें नहीं पता हम उसी दुख में शामिल
क्या अपील करेंगे आप?
हम यही अपील करते हैं, पहले जो इंसानियत का यहाँ पे कत्ल हुआ है हम उसके खिलाफ हैं, हम इन दरिंदों के खिलाफ हैं। जरूर जरूर जरूर। यहाँ पे इनोसेंट किलिंग हुई है, हम न ये देखना चाहते हैं कभी, न ये सुनना चाहते हैं। हम वक्त की गवर्नमेंट से गुजारिश करते हैं इन दरिंदों को पकड़े और कड़ी से कड़ी सजा मिले। हमारा पहले इंसानियत का कत्ल हुआ, हमारा शरीयत हमारा कुरान बोलता है कि इंसान का कत्ल करना तमाम इंसानियत का कत्ल हो जाता है, इसलिए हम इसके खिलाफ हैं। हमारी यही गुजारिश रहेगी, पहले इंसानियत का कत्ल हुआ, दूसरा जो हमारा रोजी रोटी वो हिट हुआ है, जो हमारा परिवार चलता था, जिससे हम कमाते थे, हमारा परिवार चलता था, वो अब खत्म हुआ। हमारा जो रोजगार वो मुतासिर हुआ। हम सब जो लोग हैं घोड़े वाले तबके से वाबस्ता है, होटल वालों से वाबस्ता है, एटीवी वालों से वाबस्ता है, गाड़ी वालों से वाबस्ता है, जो भी हैं वो सब टूरिज्म के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है, चाहे होटल वाला है, चाहे घोड़े वाला है, चाहे गाड़ी वाला है। आप देखिए जो यहाँ पहलगाम में अभी शटडाउन है, ये वहाँ का मातम नहीं है, ये हमारे पूरे फैमिली में पूरे घरों में मातम छाया हुआ है। हम तबाह हुए हैं, हमारा फ्यूचर तबाह हुआ है, हम कुछ किसी के लायक नहीं रहे हैं। हमने कोशिश की थी मगर वो कोशिश एक तरह की नाकाम। बंद करो।
Those are the testimonies, one after the other, coming in from the Kashmir Valley. We've lost General Kulkarni. I was going to go to him, but let me take this to Prabhu Dayal. Ambassador Dayal, pick up on Tavleen's point, that it's time now to basically talk about Baluchistan, another Bangladesh moment. Go ahead and respond. I can't hear Ambassador Dayal. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Before I respond to that point, let me mention that I am totally in agreement with Ms. Tavleen Singh when she says that the Pakistanis somehow think that all Indians are banyas, and that's how they refer to it. I was posted in Pakistan in the early 80s, and I used to see how their Urdu language media would continuously speak of all Indians as banyas. They forget, as Ms. Tavleen Singh said, that we have Sikhs who are indeed the backbone of the armed forces. Now, let me mention, if I was to rewrite history, I would go back to 1947, to the time when partition took place, when we did not allow the Punjabis, especially the Sikhs, to settle down in Jammu and Kashmir. That was a huge mistake. J&K was our territory. We should have allowed the Sikhs and other Punjabis to settle down in Jammu and Kashmir, and today you would not have had any Kashmir problem. They would have fought the terrorists. They would have settled the score. The Kashmiri Pandits, a small minority, cannot cope with this task. They are not a fighting people. And in any case, their numbers are too small. So as I said, this was something that she said, and it struck a very familiar theme in my own thinking. Now, let me also mention, Barkha, on your channel, 3 days ago, I categorically said that we must realize that my enemy's enemy is my friend. When I was posted in Pakistan, I used to hear this continuous rant of we will bleed India by 1,000 cuts. This was not only said by their army generals, but by their politicians also. And this has continued to be the rant down the decades. We have been too conciliatory. We should.
Did we just lose Prabhu Dayal right in the middle of his comment? I'm sure he'll reconnect. General Kulkarni, we were trying to bring you in also. The points that we were discussing were about how an episodic response is not good enough. Tavleen Singh was making the point of Baluchistan, breakaway Baluchistan, about take back POK. I want to ask you what that might entail. If that were established as the motive, what might that entail in terms of what India should understand and Indians should understand, you know, we say this, but what does it actually mean in military terms and what it requires of the country?
Multifarious responses to what Pakistan has done. And even if you go with the Indus Water Treaty, since I was in Kishtwar, I know that Dulhasti project, where on various rivers and subsequently on Ravi, Satluj, Chenab, Jhelum, all the dams that we've constructed, maybe some of them which are run of the water. All said and done, what is very important is all the dams subsequently to stop water is a different thing altogether. It may take a long time. It requires almost 4 Tehri Dam kind of structures to come up to be able to stop water. And the Tehri Dam itself took 12 years to construct one. So notwithstanding that, very important is the data sharing. It isn't about water. Now, today I share data with Pakistan. I tell them I'm releasing water at 4 o'clock, this gate number, and I'll close that water at 6 o'clock. Pakistan gets to know the water is coming, then they divert to the canals, to the respective farmers, villages and everything. Today and hereinafter, I won't be sharing data. They wouldn't know. Indus isn't flowing just about 200 kilometers. It's a river which has 1,000 kilometers. So if it is raining somewhere in Haryana and Himachal Pradesh, it is not raining in Delhi. You suddenly find Yamuna has so much of water, and you start thinking, how come Yamuna has got water when it isn't raining in Delhi? So this is what happens. This is a very big weapon that we have. It's almost like weaponizing water with a view to be able to tell the Pakistanis, herein no data sharing will be done. With Chinese, what are they doing? We were getting data from Brahmaputra. We are now buying data from Brahmaputra because the Chinese refuse to give it to us. So there is a lot that can be done about the Indus Water Treaty is concerned. As regards what Tavleen said about Bania, absolutely right, because this is what even Kasuri has written in his book, neither a hawk nor a dove. We would call the Muslims Musla and they would call Hindus Baniyas. So that is something which I was, even when I was there for 2 years, I know exactly what it means. Notwithstanding all that, right now, as the only good thing from a very bad incident that has occurred, this has actually united India. United India in a manner that everybody across whichever religion you may be coming from, if one does feel bad that Pakistanis are doing something which is not supposedly done, and they have let us down the trust factor, and that trust, and we now need to pay back Pakistan the
But
same
General
coin.
Kulkarni,
There is no denying.
in specific terms, where do we go from here? Right? Look at what's happening.
Yeah.
We are blowing up the houses of terrorists in the Kashmir Valley. Right? If we can bring up those images, every day there's another terrorist house that is blown up and razed to the ground. You have seen the Navy signaling its readiness. We haven't actually spoken about that. I'd request you to speak a little bit about the significance of the Navy and its anti-ship missile exercises that it has publicly conducted today and released those videos. And then there is a demand for a more permanent intervention, a taking back of a POK or a breaking away Baluchistan. My question to you is, or as Robindra Sachdev said, strike the Pakistani generals, the Pakistan army, right? My question for you is, as somebody who is the hero of Siachen, there is a cost that comes to all of this. And when we say this, we have to be ready to pay that cost. And do people understand what this might mean in terms of a spiral up the escalatory ladder?
There is no denying the fact, Barkha. The cost would have to be paid. There is no denying the fact. They are not going to sit back tight. They will also retaliate. That the retaliation is expected, and that retaliation has to be, taken care of. And it is all bridged and get into it. But yes, say the naval exercises what you're talking about. Well, I can't discuss much about it. But notwithstanding that, we've seen how the Karachi harbor was blocked. So the naval blockade and all these sea lanes of communication, all of it has to be taken care of. You know what Bangladesh does, or where the transfer of this ISI militants, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, being transferred maybe from one country to the other country, because Bangladesh almost seems to be playing now in the hands and gloves of Pakistan. So all that. Definitely there's a lot that can be done. Even the nuclear bluff that the Pakistanis seem to be saying that, whoa, we've got so much of Gandhi's, we have got Hataf, and we can do this. They can do nothing. What can they do? They know. But why wasn't it being used all along? Even in Kargil, the bluff was called off. It's not easy. Pakistan knows it uses nuclear, they get wiped out from the face of the earth. They're aware that Indians are not going to sit back tight, whether they use tactical or otherwise. Once they use, that's gone. That's the last. That's the end of Pakistan. Thereafter, as far as the Baluchis are concerned, Baluchis have all along been, from 1950 onwards, have always opposed Pakistan for a very simple reason: 4% of the population, 44% of the land, all of the mineral resources, including gold of it, being now taken by China. Earlier, the royalties paid a 5% to the Baluchis. You see the representation of the Baluchis in the Pakistan army, less than 2%. Look at the population, just 3 to 4%. And look at the representation so low. Look at the land that they're occupying. The electricity that the Gwadar International Airport constructed by China comes from Iran. That's the state. They don't even have drinking water, no electricity. Baluchis are suffering. So we don't need to do anything in Baluchistan. Baluchistan will break away within no time. It's just that. But yes, ceasefire by Pakistan. What does a ceasefire mean? Of course, now that the Simla agreement gets suspended, abrogated, whatever it is, it in any case wasn't being followed by Pakistan whatsoever. But now you're free to do what we want to do.
Right.
And look at the Baluchis. The ceasefire agreements were all in favor of Pakistan. Pakistan lifted troops from the western border and moved them to Baluchistan, into Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, only to lose 1,500 troops every year because they couldn't fight. Oh, you heard Fazlur Rahman, what he said in the parliament, that there are 6 provinces in Baluchistan who don't fly
Which are
Pakistani
not
flag.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
you seem to be saying Baluchistan is going to break away on its on its own. That's the momentum, and that is, by the way, my theory for why Munir made the speech he did, why Pahalgam has happened. He is desperately trying to divert from his own failures at home. We need to start taking last comments. Mr. Sachdev, I'll start with you, Robindra. Sachdev, where do you see us going from here? Quickly, briefly.
I think a mix of all of these, and the government would do whatever it would do. We do not know. It could be something very surprising, very strange, which we may have not imagined overall. But yes, the sentiment is that something could and should happen. Regarding the water treaties, yes, you see, the government also said step 1, 2, and 3 in one. They said stop sharing of data, with the implications which General Kulkarni is saying. In phase 2, what they're going to do is the eastern rivers, that is the ones which were in our quota, we would start utilizing more of their waters. As of now, from 35 million acre feet, we use around 30 million, around 5 million acre feet flows into Pakistan, stopping those, etc. And the third step, long term, would be what I call 47 by 47. One more thing I'll say in terms of, pragmatic, I don't know. I mean, lots of our folks in the diaspora are protesting outside, the Pakistani embassies, high commissions, etc. I think our diaspora should actually start pressurizing more the lawmakers in their own respective countries to whatsoever sensitize, because that would be something, at least, building up some pressure. To my mind, sure, protesting outside the high commissions does bring something. It creates the optics, but it doesn't, move the needle much. Whereas if the diasporas engage more with the elected lawmakers, that could add to something.
Well, we saw the crazy colonel of the Pakistan army basically do this throat slit gesture as he was holding up pictures of Indian Air Force hero Abhinand Vartaman, who was taken into custody and then released. That time Imran Khan was the Prime Minister. Sorry, Robindra, you're saying something. I want to move on now to Ambassador Dayal. Ambassador Dayal, last thoughts. We lost you there briefly. Complete your point.
Well, I'm sorry I got eliminated because there was some telephone call from outside, but it doesn't happen on Zoom. I'm surprised I was knocked out suddenly in the midst of what I was saying.
Sorry for that, but please complete your point.
Has said some of the things which I said and which I had already said on your channel 3 days ago. While the Baluchis and the Pashtuns are fighting against the Pakistan army, they need help. And as I said, my enemy's enemy is my friend. We should assist the BLF and the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan in every manner possible. Now, we have to find ways to assist. Of course, we have the money, we have the weaponry, but sometimes there is a problem how to reach them to these people. Well, we have to explore options. The relations between Afghanistan and Pakistan are quite dicey, and we have to explore an option in that context also. I don't have to spell it out. Our intelligence agencies are very clever. They're exploring all options. But let me mention that the biggest terrorist outfit in Pakistan is not the Lashkar-e-Taiba, it's not the Jaish-e-Mohammed, it's not the Hizbul Mujahideen, it's the Pakistan Army and its intelligence wing, the ISI. because they orchestrate, mastermind, and fund these terrorist attacks against India because it's their policy to wage covert warfare. They want to bleed India by 1,000 cuts. They don't want to fight us headlong. So they are waging this covert warfare against us. They are the biggest terrorist outfit. As I said, the High Commission of this terrorist country should not exist in our country. We should close it down. We have to tighten our security. Things were very normal and tourists were going, but now I must be honest, people are scared. The economy of Jammu and Kashmir will be hit. The tourism sector will be affected. We have to straighten things out. We have to, first of all, identify why this sort of a thing took place. Are there tunnels from which the people from POK are crossing over into Jammu and Kashmir? We have to see how this sort of a phenomena is taking place and who are the fifth columnists, who are the sleeper cells of the ISI. We have to, it's a huge task ahead. Now, I must also address very briefly this issue relating to the Indus Waters Treaty. Of course, we don't have the full infrastructure, but work in that context has already been taking place. We don't need to put in 20 years. It's a much, much shorter time span that is needed to completely take away the waters of the Indus River, the Jhelum, the Chenab, and utilize those waters.
Okay.
Moreover, once we say that the Indus Waters Treaty is in abeyance, we have no obligation to pass any sort of information to Pakistan. And this becomes a serious problem for that country in the context of the flooding season. We always used to share information which was relevant for Pakistan, which was helpful to Pakistan during the flooding season. Now we don't have to do that. And that's a cause of very big worries for them. So there is a whole slew of measures. Everything is on the table. No option is off the table. Our government will take care of all aspects.
All right. General Kulkarni, very briefly, and then I'll give Tavleen the closing word. You've already outlined a whole series of options. What should we be ready for? You see, you're seeing on your screen the faces of the terrorists. Two of them are local, two of them are from Pakistan. Now there's a third being looked at. And these men, as Tavleen pointed out, these terrorists have to be caught, but they've probably just folded back into the forests. And, the line of control is actually an impossible area. Even after fencing, you can't guarantee that nobody is going to come across. But one of these fellows went on a visa to Pakistan, came back as an infiltrator, Adil Thokar. We know those details now. Quick last word, General Kulkarni.
See, the source of terror has to be destroyed, and so as the support base of it has to be destroyed. Even the kind of houses that we're destroying of these people, they have to be destroyed. They'll automatically, once the source of terror is destroyed, everything will fall in place. The source of terror is what Ambassador Dayal said, the Pakistan army. And that's all. Destroy the Pakistan army, finish it off once and for all. The leadership has to be destroyed, whether it is the Soleimani way or whether it is the Hezbollah way. The leadership in Pakistan, which believes only in terrorism, has to be eliminated and destroyed. How we do it, when we do it, how much time it will take, well, we leave it to the government to decide, but that's the only way forward, no other way.
Tavleen, let me give you the closing word. I think we're all in agreement that this time the response cannot be about terror camps. It has to be where it flows from, which is the Pakistan generals. And I think that everybody is agreed on. Hit them where it hurts. Last thoughts from you.
Well, for a start, immediately there should be a response. Like I said to you last time, and I wasn't joking, bump off a few generals if we have the assets to do that. But we have to remember that, I'm just a practical person. There was a Mukti Bahini without which there wouldn't have been Bangladesh. We need a Mukti Bahini in Balochistan and in POK. These are two provinces that are very, very enraged with Pakistan because they've been neglected. So why haven't we already done that? That is what I want to know. I'm sick and tired of saying, oh, next time and next time. It's just, it is too much. Wasted effort. So a Mukti Bahini in Balochistan and a Mukti Bahini type thing in POK. And let's get on with that.
Absolutely. I think that is an idea that I can see everybody nodding in agreement to, whether you do this by cultivating assets, whether you do this with open support, financial, military, it It really doesn't matter. The point is that the intervention cannot be a one-off episodic response. It has to be institutional, it has to be entrenched, and it can very well be public. This on a day when a Pakistan minister uses the word banya as if it were a cuss word to make a nuclear threat, and the Prime Minister reinforces his message that the perpetrators and their backers will get the harshest punishment. The backers, we should re-emphasize, is the Pakistan army. Thank you very much, Ambassador Dayal, Robindra, Sachdev, Tavleen, Singh, General Kulkarni, and to our audience, keep watching our continued coverage on the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack on the Mojo Story. See you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.